Trash can composting, how's it going? How's it working? It's an update episode on this project coming up. Stay tuned. The trash can composting method, how's it going? How's it working so far? Overall, from a usability standpoint, 2 thumbs up there. It's totally simple. Open the top, dump stuff in. Can't get any easier than that. I'm trying to create something here that's more or less totally passive once it's set up, where I can just take this can, park it somewhere, show up some amount of time later, 6, 12, 18 months, and then I have some finished compost that I can use. Now there's been a lot of suggestions in terms of ways I could speed this up. Things like dumping it from can to get it turning, to aerate it. I get it, good idea, but again, more work than I want to do. People have suggested putting holes in the sides to let air in. Well, I like the idea of that. I'm worried about moisture, and maybe I'm overly worried about moisture. It's just so dry and hot right now out here in Southern California that I'm trying to keep as much moisture in the system as I can, and my worry is if I start to put holes in the side, it's just going to allow wind to come through there and the contents are going to dry out. If I lift up the top here, what you can see is this top is shiny on the inside, and that's not because this is shiny plastic, it's because there's little water droplets all over the top of this. So this is staying pretty moist just having the lid on. It's providing an atmosphere in there. So all the water that wants to evaporate is hitting the inside of this lid and then raining back down on the inside. That's what I want. I don't want to have to keep adding water to these, although I may have to at some point. So one thing I'll have to look at in this experiment is, how is it working keeping the system totally enclosed? Is cutting off airflow to try and increase moisture content within the container a good trade-off? What I'll do now, thinking about this, is I'll do another can where I'll drill holes in the side and do the same passive technique, and we'll see which one works better. Now, they're not going to be perfect controls because the contents aren't going to be identical, but we should get some feel for it. What's the majority of the contents in this bucket at this point? Well, there's some food scraps in there, but what it's going to get topped off with is 100% chicken bedding. And what I learned from that experiment with the worm bin, where chicken bedding was sitting in the worm bin for over a year, is that it didn't break down very well at all, at least not fully. The manure in my bedding doesn't have enough nitrogen in it to compensate for all the carbon in the bedding itself. So I'm not getting a complete breakdown. I'm gonna have to add nitrogen. And one thing a lot of people have suggested, and this is really easy to do, is just pee in the bin. So I'll be peeing in the bin to add nitrogen to it, which also adds some liquid to it to keep the system moist. So I'll be trying that. We'll see how it goes. The bottom half of this right now is food scraps. The upper half is going to be chicken bedding, and then I'm going to take a whole nother new can and fill it 100% with chicken bedding. Then one thing I'm going to do with both of these cans is I'm going to take the worm compost, or the contents out of that worm bin, and I'm going to put some of it in this can and some of it in the new can, and hopefully inoculate it, bring some worms into the system just to see what happens. I got all that worm compost. I don't want to put it into the garden yet, so I might as well stick it in here and recompost it and see what it turns out to be. Here's one thing going into the can right now. This is some of the compost that came out of that worm bin. Now, while there's not a lot of worms in here, there's definitely a lot of biological activity that's really small to see. Little mites or other small insects. There's probably some black soldier flies, because I am seeing the black soldier fly larvae in here, the bodies of them. So I'm going to add this into the bin just for some inoculation, and then just top it off with straight chicken bedding. Here we are, filled to the top. What are the next steps? Well, I'm just going to put the top on it and let it sit. I'll try and check it once a month just to try and monitor moisture content. I'm not going to turn it. I'm not going to put a shovel in here and aerate it. Nothing like that. Anything that gets added to this, like water, urine, any other sort of nitrogen source, is going to be added from the top and watered in. I'm not going to disturb the contents. And this can, I don't know how heavy it is. Let's see. It's pretty heavy, so I can hand truck it around, but it's not immovable. The nice thing about this is it can now be parked and it doesn't look terrible compared to some other vessels out there. There it is, the static can for composting. How's it gonna work? I don't know, we'll see. What you'll notice on this and a lot of the projects that I'm working on is I'm trying to find passive solutions to things where I can have time and processes work for me that don't involve me working for me or somebody else working for me to do these things. I fully realize there's different trade-offs here. Things that you could do to make this work faster, make this work better, make it more efficient. But I'm trying to do those things faster, better, more efficient, passively, because I don't have the time to put in. I'm doing so many other things in life. I want to be able to see my kids, enjoy my kids, not spend all my time out here. So I'm trying to come up with solutions that work for me in my context. There's definitely better ways to do this, but this is the way I'm giving a shot. We'll see how it works. I'll keep you updated on all this. Thanks for watching though. Until next time, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.